Well, it actually didn't quite play out that way, but so Bates Motel had one of its biggest episodes last night, and this was like us officially catching up to the film, and it was very exciting because even though we know what happens in the movie, things still could have taken a turn, and they actually did. So I'm going to talk about those twists and turns, and also mention some of the connections that I found. Not, I probably haven't caught all of them, and if you guys know anything else, just please comment below after the video. So, let's start with the beginning of the episode. Marion gets to the Bates Motel, and Norman rushes down. It's basically pretty much like the film, and it's raining outside, and Norman comes to help her check in, and she signs her name Marion Samuels, which is the name they used in the movie as well. So this is actually one of the connections. So then what happens is we're basically seeing everything happening like it does in the film, except the addition of technology, like Marion's texting Sam, and then she calls him, and it's basically the added drama that they've added into this, with Sam having a wife, and now she knows about Marion because of Norman. And there's just so many more connections in this version, which is really cool. So, yeah, it's really interesting how they worked this in. Norman, he's dealing with his knowledge that Psyche Norma isn't real, which he hadn't really confronted her about it before. He's finally confronting her, and at first it's kind of hard to tell if he thinks she's real or not, but he finally points out that he's really just not seeing her, that she's not there. And throughout the episode, there's this conflict where Norman is dealing with that because she's not going away. Psyche Norma is just there to stay all of a sudden. And I think partly they did that because it was meant to be it's kind of like a different version of psychology from the movie, where Norman is seeing her. And this episode, he actually does not become her, which is interesting. Mostly because he's actually figuring out what's going on, and I think he's starting to gain a little more strength and control, but not 100%, because like I said, she's not going away. But he might have a little more control not to become her, which is actually interesting. Don't know if that's the route they're gonna go in, but just a thought. So back to Marion. There's the scene where he brings her dinner, and the dialogue was a bit different from the movie, and I actually thought it was interesting. She noticed the taxidermy in the office, and she points out that she's happy she's not a bird, and I'm thinking, if you're gonna die, don't say that, because kind of the same fate. But anyway, she's basically having a nice conversation with Norman, but he does start to get weird about his life and everything. And of course the infamous shower scene comes, which this was creepy. Because Norman's watching her through the wall, and I'm not going to get into the details, but so she's in the shower. We think, oh, this is going to happen. This is where the movie is finally going to get to the moment of Marion's death, you know? But, however, this was just a tease. She starts to wonder about something, and she goes to the office, and she wonders if Sam has checked in or not. And Norman he's right there. He's in the office. He was not going to go attack her, not dressed like mom or anything. No. He was just there. But this is the moment where he tells her that Sam has a wife, and he's basically telling her that you've been lied to. And Marion doesn't want to believe him, basically like Madeline was acting last episode. So she goes to confront Sam to make sure that that's not really the case. However, she sees him arguing with Madeline, and that is when she gets out of her car and she smashes all the windows of Sam's car and drives off, and Sam tries to stop her, but he's not winning in this situation, which that should teach people cheaters never prosper. So anyway, so yeah, Marion goes back to the motel. I was gonna say hotel, no. She's really upset about everything, which understandably so. And she's really not sure what to do now, because this actually didn't happen in the movie where Marion found out Sam was married and had no idea what to do next. This was all written into this whole series, like it's what it was leading up to. Never anything in the movie about this. So Norman is trying to comfort her, because he's usually a very nice person, if you ignore the psycho part. But he's having feelings for her, which is concerning, and that was the problem in the movie, where he was having feelings for her, and that's what brought on the jealous mother, and that's what led to her death. So he's aware that he could potentially hurt her. So he tells her to leave, and he wants her to start over and just never come back to the motel. And she's seeing this as a sign of help, which in some ways it kind of is, but he mostly just doesn't want to hurt her, which it's a little more of a human characteristic that the original Norman Bates did not have. So he actually convinces her to leave, and at that moment I was thinking, oh, she's gonna find a reason to come back, isn't she? Interestingly, and for the rest of the episode, she doesn't. She drives off, she throws her phone out the window, and we don't know if we're going to see her again or not, but it's interesting if that's where it ends. So Norman managed not to kill Marion, which is really, that's one of the twists. The next twist is when Sam comes to the motel. He decides to wait in Marion's room, and little does he know that she left and threw her phone out the window. So Norman sees that Sam has come, and he's very filled with rage, and I was reminded that his father's name was Sam, which that's a really interesting connection there. And Psyche Norma comes to him, and she's like, she's not playing games anymore. She's going to tell him why she's there, because he basically formed her in his mind as a form of protection, which I had a feeling that was mainly the idea, but I didn't realize how young. Like, she mentions when he was a child that he created her. So this has been going on for a while, and like I've mentioned before, I have not seen a lot of season 1, so I don't know if that was ever addressed or not. But I just kind of figured it just started up around that point when he was in high school and dealing with things. So this was actually kind of interesting to learn. It's been going on for a much longer time because of his father's abuse. Norman always wanted to protect Norma, but instead he formed a protection of his own to make him feel stronger, and just maybe to give Norma, in a sense, a way to be stronger without actually being effective, but it's interesting. So yeah, she's finally revealing all of this to him, and he's finally learning the truth of why things are the way they are. And she manages to talk him into doing the killing himself. So he goes into the room where Sam is, and Sam's actually taking a shower, which here's the connection to the movie with a twist. The scene plays out exactly as when Marion is killed. However, it's Sam. And Norman is doing the killing himself, not as mother, as himself. So yeah, that was that was really interesting. I was wondering if Marion wasn't going to die in this version, which, like I said, she still could if she comes back. But I have a feeling even if she comes back, she might not, so but I'm not sure. One thing I was thinking about is that they never mentioned anything about the sister appearing on the series, Marion's sister. So my guess is that that role was kind of like, my friend actually said this, the role was kind of taken over by Madeline, like a new character, but instead of the sister, we have the wife of Sam. So that's interesting if that's the case. But yeah, it's... I actually didn't think it was going to play out exactly like Marion's death in the movie, but really well done. And yeah, this was really... like, people were shocked by Psycho when they originally saw it in the theaters. This was quite shocking itself. Even though I had some theories and everything, it still surprised me to see how it turned out. So yeah, that's kind of where that ended. And also Norman points out, like, he says at the end of the episode, "Mother, what have I done?" And again, my friend pointed out that it was a similar line to the movie where Norman screams, "Mother, what have you done?" So this was a really neat way of taking that and turning it into something new. So I really like the direction that the show went in, and we don't know what's going to happen for the last 4 episodes, really. Another thing that happened in this episode was Emma told Dylan about the article that she found that Norma was found dead, that she committed suicide. And Dylan does not want to believe it. He's very distraught. And he actually calls Norman. And here's the thing where Dylan actually doesn't believe Norman. He knows there's something up. He would never assume that Norma would commit suicide. So they have a really heated discussion and argument over the phone, and Norman just does not want to talk about it, and it's kind of obvious that there's something going on. So my guess is that Dylan is going to show up at some point. I don't know if that spells doom for that character, and I hope it doesn't, because he has a family now, and I feel like it'd be really sad if he was one to go. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Alright, as far as connections go, I mentioned a couple of things. Yeah, there were a lot of differences in this episode, but another similarity I caught was when Norman was showing Marion her room, he mentions they have products with the name of the motel on it. You can take it home and make your friends jealous. I think that was a line from the movie, if not just somewhat taken from the movie. I pretty much am sure I remember that from the movie. But yeah, like Sam's death, it mirrored Marion's death in the film, with the curtains coming off the rings and him falling over the edge of the tub. That was very similar. Yeah, like, I'm sure there's more than I can remember, or even, I might not have even caught them. Like, the writers for the show are just so amazing, so I commend them for this. It's not easy to take something and make it new again, and they did a really great job with this. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We finally caught up to the movie, and we will see what the last 4 episodes hold for us. So yeah, alright, I will talk to you later. Bye.